Alright, I'm about to drop some severe wisdom on everybody here. Let's say, by some misfortune happenings, Insurrection 2, Electric Boogaloo happens, but succeeds this time. Why would anyone want to get rid of the Second Amendment, especially after what happened at the Capitol? That whole law is there so that the civilian populace, if banded together, just like we did to get independence from England, had to band together to defeat a tyrannical government that was illegitimate. We could. So let me ask everybody that's anti-gun and anti-bear arms, if Insurrection 2, Electric Boogaloo, takes place and it's successful in taking over the government, and worst case scenario, military recognizes it, National Guards recognize it, and civilians are alone in this fight, how do you plan on taking back the country? I mean, it certainly isn't going to be with peace, love, and hugs. So my question to every single person that's anti-gun, is the problem the fact that people can own guns, or is the problem with mental health? I'm being dead serious here. Mental health is the issue with every single one of these shootings that goes on. It's horribly, I can't even imagine what it's like to go through that. But what I can tell you is it has nothing to do with the fact that people own guns. It really doesn't. I mean, to put this in a way that you can think about, in Star Wars, when Anakin, in that famous scene, decides to chop up some younglings, did anybody blame the lightsaber? Huh? Did anyone blame that lightsaber? The question is answered with no. Everyone blamed Anakin. Same basic principle. You should blame the person and figure out what went wrong with their brain to prevent mental illness, instead of blaming an inanimate object that cannot think for itself. I don't get it. The whole point behind Second Amendment rights is to be 100% sure that if something like the insurrection were to take place and succeed in taking over the government, the people could resist to a reasonable point and wrestle control back and put it on the right path. The fact that our founding fathers even thought about that to put into play, even if it was down the road, Second Amendment, the fact that that was a thing and they thought this far ahead, to the point where a lot of the stuff in there was written a very long time ago and it's still relevant. You have to applaud them for that. But I just think that anyone who's anti-gun really hasn't thought that through. They take in what people say. They take in just information handed to them on a silver platter by the media and decide it's true on the basis of it's coming to me from a reliable source. I got news for you. If you don't listen, I don't care what side of the political spectrum you're on, if you don't listen to both sides, if you are left and you only listen to CNN, or if you're right and you only listen to Fox, you're only getting your side of the story. You have to listen to both and take your information and like cross reference and all that crazy shit that I have to do now because media is weird. Like, in order to understand an opponent in a debate, you need to get into their brain. You need to get into their argument. And I feel like it's important not only for liberals to get into the minds of conservatives, but conservatives to get into the minds of liberals. That is how you get stuff done. And I'll put it out there right now. I am not a Republican. I am not a Democrat. I am a registered libertarian. Like, I don't believe in a two-party system. I think that it's a little flawed to have all the power rest with two parties, really. It's sad. But, you know, it's just how it goes. This whole rant, basically, is just, if you want to protect your rights as an American, whether you're conservative, liberal, in between somewhere, it is imperative that civilians have it available to at least be able to defend their property or their town or whatever in the event of hostile takeover. Also, let's not put it out there that like, we're across the ocean from the world, okay? But I'm just going to put it out there. There are other countries on our continent that could be taken over by a hostile power. And then it's on land and they can just come up to us. But my whole thing is, if you've read anything about the Ukraine incident and the horrible things Russian troops have been doing to Ukrainians, how do you think they're going to do it to Americans? Ukrainians speak the language. They're so similar in so many ways. For Pete's sake, Kievan Rus started in Kiev. If anything, Russians are Ukrainians, not the other way around. But how do you think a foreign power that's been hearing about the American dream, America's so good, America's the best, yada, 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 how do you think they would treat us? Do you want the ability to defend your family against whatever country's oppression is happening in your area? Do you want your neighbors to be able to defend them? Do you want to be able to band together as a nation and resist? Because I guarantee you, if enemy makes landfall, which would be extremely difficult, but if that happens, there's going to be so much devastation to the civilian populace, 10 times worse than what the Russians are doing to the Ukrainians. I don't know if you know this. The world hates America. The world is jealous. They have been for some time. I don't know if Americans really know this, but there's a whole thing with propaganda in other countries that are arrayed against us. There's a whole slew of arguments for why America evil, but I mean, like, it's bad. It's not good. And if we cannot defend ourselves, it'll be over at that point too. So ask yourself this: are you anti-gun, or are you anti-mental health problem? Because that's the real issue here. A mental health emergency needs to be called. And that's the important part. Mental health is the culprit, not an inanimate object that can't do anything if you don't pull the trigger. I hope this message finds people, and I hope that we can all band together as a nation. I really hope that we can do all that. As always, stay wizardly.